And that just about wraps it up for us today. Remember to check us out on Tumblr or Pillowfort as Afterspark-podcast for any additional information, show notes, or links we may have mentioned. You can also find us on various other platforms by searching for Afterspark podcasts, such as AO3, iTunes, Spotify, and YouTube, just to name a few. And feel free to send us questions on Tumblr, YouTube, or AO3. Till next time, I'm Specs.
And I'm Alice.
Toodles.
Alright, we're out. Do you ever think about what it'd be like if we made a podcast about a completely different thing anyway?
That's an interesting question. Well, I've got to head out. See you in a couple days.
Yep, bye! I wonder what kind of podcast we'd have had in another universe anyway. Welcome to the Masters of Mundanity podcast, where we talk about beautiful, high-grade 80s cheese of the huge muscly dude variety, or let's talk about He-Man and the Masters of the Universe. I'm Alice.
And I'm Specs.
Today's episode is episode 25, Evilseed, which is a personal favorite of mine. We've got some peak Skeletor moments here, thank you very much.
We open with Man-at-Arms having some allergy problems, and Teela and Adam lightly ribbing him about it.
The computer pops up with an alert about some flooding in Eternia elsewhere.
Man-at-Arms goes to investigate while Prince Adam has something to do.
By which, turning into He-Man and coming along, but of course we can't say that because Teela's in the room.
So silly. After scarring Cringer for life, some more, as he's forced into being Battle Cat, per the usual.
Ram Man and Man-at-Arms find some suspicious weeds in the vehicle Man-at-Arms intended to take, but lacking time, he just instead takes the small track, after being joined by He-Man and Battle Cat, who have conveniently appeared, don't you know?
At the sight of the flooding, Battle Cat jumps into the water and saves a Keebler Elf-esque looking guy from drifting away on his unmoored house.
He-Man and Man-at-Arms find the source of the flooding, which is a partially broken dam.
He-Man fixes this in the most extra way possible by creating a tornado. Well, okay, so he knocks down some rocks, and then he makes a tornado to pick up those rocks and deposit them on top of the dam. And I mean, this doesn't feel like it should work. I feel like this isn't gonna work. These aren't even mortared. They aren't even put in place in a specific way that would make them stay there.
They're just sort of piled on top of, like, the broken portion of the dam.
Which, needless to say, had water coming out of it.
But of course, this magically works, and we see our protagonist interviewing the Keebler elves afterwards to figure out the cause of the dam damage. But, you see, they were sold some magic beans?
Well, magic seeds by a shady man in a cloak. The seeds grew extremely fast overnight and overtook the dam.
Never mind that we didn't see any vines when He-Man and Man-at-Arms got there.
Man-at-Arms volunteers to stay and help.
He-Man muses if the situation was caused by Skeletor, but is interrupted by the sorceress telling him that he should hurry back to the palace.
The palace is covered in vines. Well, the same kind of vines that had so damaged the dam.
Teela's been captured by the vines, but unfortunately Orko is still free to run around.
Why?
The bondage vibes are very strong in this portion, my friends. Very strong. It's like when people pop up, they're being restrained by vines.
The vines mysteriously pull back after apparently kidnapping everyone in the palace, even poor Cringer.
Again, everyone except poor Orko.
Also, like, I think the palace was falling down around them. So no one's having a good time.
There were definitely some damage from the vines, but it didn't, like, destroy the entire palace or anything.
Yeah, but yeah, the fact that Orko is there, the vines don't want Orko.
No one wants Orko. I say that in jest to a certain degree. So our motley crew of being He-Man and Orko now attempt to escape, but the vines kind of pop back up again just long enough to sort of grab them and sap He-Man's strength.
Thankfully, the sorceress Deus Ex Machina hoofs them to Grayskull, where they are safe for the moment.
They then borrow the sorceress's video phone to just call up Snake Mountain because we can apparently just do that.
Will this ever be brought up again?
I actually don't remember. In all honesty, I don't remember.
Like, this is the sort of thing that isn't typically brought up again, except that it brings up so many questions about what she uses it for.
Magic. Who put this here? Was it just installed in Grayskull? Did Man-at-Arms put this here? Is there any kind of wireless network on Eternia?
Does she have a long-distance book club? Because I feel
that would be funny.
I feel like the sorceress doesn't get out of Castle Grayskull a whole lot.
She does not. She kind of can't. She sort of has to be in the general vicinity of Grayskull because it's tied to her powers and shit.
So, for once, the plants are not actually Skeletor's fault. And in fact, he's having about as much trouble as they are with them.
We see Skeletor zapping various vines with magic, along with Evil Lyn doing the same thing.
But in the middle of the conversation, a mysterious robed man busts in, displacing Skeletor's visage. Because, yeah, they've been talking to Skeletor on the video phone while Skeletor's been fighting the vines.
Yup. And then the robed man appears on both their monitors talking to both of them functionally, and boo! Bring back Skeletor.
Skeletor's more entertaining.
He is.
Alright, so this mysterious robed man is Evilseed, master of the plant kingdom, which is the first we've heard of this, I think.
Yes.
So yeah, Evilseed is taking over. That's his message.
And he also intends to take all of Skeletor's shit, I guess, and Skeletor doesn't like this for reasons I can't possibly comprehend.
Evilseed removes his hood, and we are treated to an alien-esque artichoke man.
I swear to God, if the moral of this episode is eat your veggie kids, I'm leaving.
It could be. Seems a bit odd when the villain is a sapient person.
Sapient plant man. Evilseed reveals that he has kidnapped all their friends, and then ends the call.
Skeletor wants to make a deal, but Evilseed cuts him off too.
And then Skeletor calls him a cabbage.
Evil Lyn is yoinked out of Snake Mountain by the vines, begging for help from Skeletor, who says he's got to help himself. He's prioritizing.
He's prioritizing him, okay?
He's the me first man.
He definitely is. Skeletor then calls for help from Merman, again on this same sort of video TV thing, I think, who is having similar problems with the plant life.
This leaves Skeletor on his own and wondering how long he'll be able to hold out by himself.
At Grayskull, Evilseed sticks the vines on the good guys. He-Man is able to repel them for now.
And then the sorceress is going to do some science on one of Evilseed's vines.
They reach the conclusion that cold, in fact, kills plants.
They didn't even try fire!
They needed snow. This is the conclusion they've reached.
Unfortunately, there is no snow in this forecast because it's, I don't know, a balmy spring day or something.
So He-Man's gonna go out, get some ice from the ice mountains, and they're gonna do some magic on it to make their own snow with blackjack and hookers. But they need help to pull this off. Magical help. No, not Orko. Real magical help. They need Skeletor.
Conveniently, back at Snake Mountain, Trapjaw, who I guess Skeletor wasn't as alone as he thought, Trapjaw suggests that Skeletor call He-Man for, help, just before He-Man calls him.
Skeletor tells He-Man no, much to poor Trapjaw's distress, because he is then dragged off by the vines once he runs out of freeze ray shots.
He's literally like, I'm all out of freeze rays, buddy.
Bye!
And then finally, out of ideas and henchmen, Skeletor calls He-Man back.
As a friend.
Evilseed monologues to himself and his captives, which includes Adam's parents and Teela, and I feel like this monologue was some sort of poem.
It was weird. It's like, he's got Adam's parents, Teela, Evil Lyn, Cringer, all like tied up on this tree. It is so weird.
And he's referencing this strange tree with strange fruit.
Turns out his master evil plan is to break the dam and flood Eternia, so the plants will have all the water they need to grow.
Forever? And I mean, the thing is, your plants are probably gonna drown, dude.
And what do you expect? He's a talking artichoke. It's really quite a sophisticated plan for a vegetable.
I mean, he's probably got an artichoke heart for a brain. At Castle Grayskull, the sorceress sends He-Man to the Ice Mountains to retrieve the ice they need.
And Skeletor has arrived, disrupting the machine that was supposed to teleport He-Man back after getting the ice, completely ignoring what will happen to Skeletor, if the plants win.
This guy's not very good at forward thinking.
He's not. He just wants to be evil.
Skeletor tries to take on the sorceress as well, but is, you may be surprised to learn, captured by vines.
The sorceress opens the portal herself, and He-Man is able to get back to Grayskull after hurling the top of an ice mountain towards Castle Grayskull.
How fast is this thing going? It'll arrive in 60 seconds!
They gotta climb up a tower! He-Man frees Skeletor from the vines, who just asks something along the line of, "Don't you ever get tired of being the hero all the time?"
And then, Skeletor also asks if they ever want to do anything evil, to which He-Man responds, "Don't you ever want to do anything good?"
No.
He doesn't.
So He-Man, Skeletor, the Sorceress, and Orko all combine their powers to break up the ice chunk to create the snow situation.
Well, they need to, like, do some convincing to get Skeletor to do it.
They gotta talk this man into it, despite the fact that the plants are also gonna take him out.
Yeah. So it begins to snow over Eternia, killing Evilseed and freeing the captives, with some very nice-looking death animation on Evilseed.
He-Man attempts to talk Skeletor into doing more good things, but Skeletor is having none of it and returns to Snake Mountain.
I keep imagining him stomping off in a huff and flouncing back into
the portal.
Yeah, and just collapsing in grumpy silence on his throne.
Waiting for Evelyn to come back, or anybody to come back and bring him a sandwich, not just Evelyn.
Yeah.
He's not sexist, he basically treats all his henchmen like this.
Yep. Orko is confused by Skeletor's evilness, but the sorceress says, "Some people don't know right from wrong."
And Orko responds that Man-at-Arms just sends him to his room when he's done something wrong.
He-Man jokes that the next time, they'll just send Skeletor to Orko's room after all. It's so messy that he'll never find his way out.
And the moral for today is, while working together can sometimes be difficult, you can accomplish as a group what you couldn't do alone, which is a good moral.
It is. Teamwork makes the dream work. Or something.
Even with Skeletor. And with that, our episode ends. I'm going to give that one a solid 5 out of 5 skulls. Skeletor was in there a lot and had some good lines.
And Els has our fun fact for the day.
Our fun fact might be a little bit of an exaggeration, but today I want to talk to you about one Mr. Elmer McCurdy. Once upon a time, there was a rather hapless outlaw by the name of Elmer in the early 1900s who tried to rob trains and banks and build himself as an explosives expert. He wasn't.
Did he blow himself up?
No, actually, the story gets weirder than that. He didn't have a very successful outlaw career, including, but not limited to, melting the stuff he was trying to steal because of the bag of explosives. And getting a train schedule so wrong, they robbed the wrong train, and instead of ending up with several $1,000s, they ended up with $40 and some whiskey. It was literally, I think, in a like local newspaper, teased as like one of the worst train robberies of all time, or like least effective. But that's not the part that's odd, right? Like that's pretty bad, but he had a more successful career after death than he ever did during life. After being gunned down and killed, his body went unclaimed. So the morgue owner decided to use him as an advertisement for how good his embalming skills were. So he just had a corpse propped up in his funeral home. People could pay money to see him.
I mean, that's not that surprising if you want to advertise your embalming services.
It's just, it was like this for a while. And then eventually Elmer's brother showed up and took control over the corpse. It was not Elmer's brother. It was two guys who ran a sideshow. So the body went on tour after that. And he was a sideshow attraction for literally years. And, over time, he started to pass between owners, and people didn't realize this was a corpse. It did not help that he at some point got covered in wax and was owned by a wax museum. Yeah, it's very, very bizarre. But then, in the 1970s, during the filming of a $6 Million Man episode in a haunted house where Elmer was now located, the mannequin's arm snapped off, and the crew realized that was not a mannequin. That's a person.
That's a corpse!
That's a real corpse. The police recall McCurdy was eventually identified through a series of things, including, I guess, one of the places he was, they put coins in his mouth as, like, payment for seeing him, and so, like, they found some stuff, and they were able to kind of backtrack where he was from. He was finally laid to rest in Oklahoma, including having a shit ton of concrete dumped on his corpse so that nobody could unbury him again. But, how does any of that relate to He-Man, you might be thinking? And I
Did
wouldn't blame
he
you this
inspire Skeletor?
Yes! So, a young man visited that same funhouse when he was 9 and encountered a mannequin hung in the gallows, leaving a lasting impression. I quote, "All of a sudden, I knew this was a real person, no question. That absolutely was a real person." And that young man was Mark Taylor, who in The Toys That Made Us said, "This was one of the scariest things I've ever seen," and that's where Skeletor came from.
Oh.
And that's how an outlaw from the 1900s inspired the creation of Skeletor.
Oh.
I will link some videos because I did not do that justice. I had seen a much shorter video longer back, not making the connection that corpse was the corpse that the guy was talking about in the Toys That Made Us. And I recently watched a longer video because I'd watched The Toys That Made Us. He had said that this was a dead body, not gone into any more detail, if I'm remembering properly, and if I'm not, I'm sorry, I'm an idiot. And I was like, how the hell was there a dead body in a fun house, in a haunted house fun house type thing? That's how.
Oh God. I feel like I might have read something about that or similar to that, because it was definitely, like, it might have been 5 or 10 years ago, because I definitely remember reading something at some point about a body just being, like, through sideshows and, like, stuff, but I don't remember a funhouse thing.
Well, and
I also might be misremembering fanfiction.
I don't know if the Toys That Made Us was the first time that the designer talked about that, so I don't know how well known that connection is outside of, like, that.
Well, it also might have been something that was on Cracked or something at some point. Because Cracked has a lot of weird sort of things.
Regardless, that's all for today, folks. Thanks for listening. Join us next time for episode 26, Ordeal in the Darklands, or what I like to call a 0 out of 5 skulls episode, because there's no fucking Skeletor.
Skeletor can be there in our hearts.
He's in all our hearts. That'd be freaking weird, wouldn't it? Anyway.
God, yeah.
Happy April Fools! I hope that was funny to somebody out there besides me. I also really like He-Man and dread specs to this.
Well, I certainly enjoyed the corpse story at the end. Also, just the death animation for Evilseed.
He-Man actually has some really nice animation in it compared to Transformers. It's kind of on the opposite end. The thing about He-Man is they just reused a fuck ton of animation, due to kind of how its production was handled. It's fascinating, and yeah, it is the other 80s cartoon show that I really love. So
also, I don't think the Keebler elves had any women.
Probably not.
It's too difficult to draw women in there, so maybe they're just...
I mean, whenever you see a woman, I swear to God, it's like the same woman every time in the show, so make of that what you will. Anyway, happy April Fools!
Happy April Fools!
And join us next time for a more normal episode.
Yep.